Hello, welcome back to my ghost walkthrough of Godbreaker. Let's load up our save from the end of mission 1 and watch the briefing for the second mission.
Scrounging around the dusty libraries and attics of eccentric collectors has made me a bit of a collector myself. A map here, a scrap of parchment there. All are loose threads in the grand tapestry of the world's hidden treasures, and I've been collecting them for years. After thumbing through possible targets, I've settled on one that should keep me well away from the city and denizens' clutches for a while. I'm going after the Godbreaker, the sword that fell from heaven. The sword that belonged to the legendary knight Sereldin. As the story goes, Eldin was a giant of a man, and it was he who first stood against the trickster and his minions before the arrival of the Hammerite Order. Under divine inspiration, at least as the Hammers would have it anyway, Sereldin founded an order of warriors known as the Knights of the Shining Sun. According to legend, the order was able to defeat the trickster, but Eldin fell in the process, and a great tomb was erected for him. His sword was laid in the tomb with him, and currently rests in eternal and, like as not, rusty repose. Apparently, Eldin's tomb was once a required pilgrimage for Hammerite novices, and the accounts I've found in the archives of the temple library put an approximate location of the tomb southwest of the city, between Sirik and Blackbrook. There are rough maps of the area, but they're outdated and unreliable. Some type of cataclysmic event occurred generations ago, which caused the ground to shake, and great steam-spewing fissures to open up from the roots of the mountains. If it hasn't sunk into the earth, Eldin's tomb now lies in the middle of the Lantern Marsh, a vast, festering bog. Even though the area has changed tremendously, there is still hope. One novice's journal mentions the small village of Nilbog that rests on the hill not far from the tomb where pilgrims would stay and rest and regain their strength for the journey home. It's not much to go on, but I'm still optimistic. An abandoned village should be much easier to find. If I can recover this sword, scholars and eccentrics will be falling all over each other to get their hands on it. This may be the final thread in the tapestry of retirement.
Alright, Impious Pilgrimage. Find the tomb of Sereldin, which is located somewhere deep in the swamp, and make his sword yours. The swamp may not have much in the way of valuables, but scrounge what you can. Find 3000 total loot. When you're done with everything, get back to where you started. There is a loadout screen, but I'm not gonna need to buy anything.
Time to stretch the legs a bit. That must be Nilbog. Guess I'm on the right track. I should keep my head down. There are worse things than denizens' thugs in the wild corners of the world.
Let's make a real save. And the map we have is very nice, but not very useful, because while it shows the individual areas we can visit, such as Nilbog, where we are right now, it doesn't show the actual layout of the mission. That said, you don't really need a map to navigate it, because it consists of these large areas connected with pretty simple cave passages. And from Nilbog we're gonna get to an area with a big lake, then to this temple, which is kind of like the hub area, and from here we can get to another village, to an area with a giant tree, and to Eldin's tomb. And we can't freely travel between these, we have to go through the temple, so it's hard to get too lost in this mission. We also have the Hammerite Pilgrimage map, that we steal in Fist of Pilgrims. Very nice, but it doesn't have any practical purpose. And here in the water, you can see a new enemy we're gonna have to deal with in the mission. Snakes. Why did it have to be snakes? These guys like to hide underwater and ambush you. But at least they make noise, so you gotta be really careful to avoid getting bitten. On top of this truck is a purse, and we can also get inside of it. Unlock this chest. There we go, total 55. There are also bodies of water in this mission that slow your movement speed down to a crawl, which is especially fun when there are snakes in such water. And let me quickly run over to the other side of the village and show you another new enemy. Here is a bug swarm. Now you've probably seen them before in original missions, but they're always stationary. And when they are, they're nothing to worry about, they're just particle systems, but these moving ones are actually AIs. Believe it or not, this is a fire elemental with a different model, so it can react to you and chase you, and we gotta be really careful to avoid them, so that we don't bust Ghost. Here's also a tree beast, but they are barely a problem in this mission. Over here is a cave that's surprisingly easy to miss. It has a crystal chunk. In the water here there is a snake. And here's something interesting. A pitcher plant. When you get close to it, it covers you in vines and releases toxic gas, and it's absolutely impossible to get by it without getting hurt. Now, if you want all the loot in the mission, you have to get by it, and to do it, you can destroy it. Now, common sense says that destroying this plant is against ghosting rules, but there actually isn't any rule that we are breaking by doing this. It's not property damage, and it's not a kill either, because the plant is just an object, it's not an enemy. And this isn't reflected in our stats as damage dealt or an enemy killed. So I would say it's in the spirit of ghosting or supreme ghosting to skip this loot, but since I want all of it and I wanna avoid taking any damage, I'm choosing to destroy the plant. This guy is stuck, but if we save and load, it should free him up. Now we can start looting the village. In this white brick building, there is a statue on the second floor. And here is a gold plate. There is also a basement with a small spider, but nothing of value. And we can climb a wall here and get over to that roof. To make sure that you actually jump from a sloped surface, I recommend pressing the spacebar, or whatever your jump button is, a couple times. So this is right above that pitcher plant, and this attic counts as a secret. In here, there are 2 pieces of loot, total 475. Getting back is a little easier. So, this is the middle of the village, there is a well and these 2 guys. It can be a nice landmark. This building is inaccessible. And in here, there is a ring in the fireplace. And a gold candlestick near these 2 sleeping red men. Now there is an eternal debate whether they are red men or ape beasts, but they are referred to as rats in this mission, so that's what I'm gonna call them. And once again, we can climb a wall here and access another secret. A gold dice in a chimney, total 650. These are the only 2 secrets in Nilbog. In here is a footlocker with a coin stack. And a crate with 2 ruined books and 1 actual book, The Forging of Sereldin's Armor. My dear and gracious Adhemer, I was most appreciative of your last letter and gift. As I write this, already the leaves are beginning to change, and the winds have taken on a fell chill in annual preparation for their dark deeds in the surrounding hills. The cloak shall be most useful in keeping the frost at bay until all is reborn in the flower of spring. Your inquiry as to the making of Eldin's armor is well received, and I am pleased to inform you that yes, I did indeed collect information on this event as well. As before, I have compiled the accounts to form a consistent narrative, and this time we are even luckier than before. Sir Boros, who became Sereldin's armorer during the height of the Years of the Sun, actually wrote a treatise on smithing that included Eldin's story from his own mouth. The Forging of Sereldin's Armor. In the dark and distant days, when the trickster's legions freely roamed the land, man was compelled to keep hidden in caves and forests, scratching out a bleak existence where he could, amongst the bare rock and mossy oaks. Now Eldin was a giant of a man, 5 cubits tall. He towered over all others, and it was said that the strength of his arm could match that of several fighting men. In those days, Eldin had built up a large group of men who followed him because of his great strength, and had edged out a village, where he worked as a toolmaker and a capable defender of the people. Over 5 cubits is over 7.5 units tall, but what's a unit? And a large group probably means no more than a dozen families, which was rather impressive at the time, due to the need for men to remain hidden from the trickster. Miraculously, the village prospered, and no wandering band of wild creatures could stand against Eldin's great strength. The village stood strong for a year, years, and half a year. One day, a few of the beasts managed to escape with their lives and journeyed to their master, the trickster. They told the woodsy king of Eldin's strength, and that man had managed to bring order into this land of chaos and confusion. This, the trickster, who was the lord of chaos, could not abide. A year, years, and half a year is 3.5 years, and the trickster's legions had no formal ranks or army at this point, and were never given direct orders other than to have free reign over the land and take and kill as they saw fit. Whether it be each other or man made no difference. The trickster gathered a large group of fighting beasts and sent them out from his ziggurat to destroy Eldin's village. Altogether, they numbered several hundred. At first, the strength of Eldin and his men overwhelmed the creatures easily, but soon their numbers began to weigh on them, and many of the men fell under the pressure. Eldin himself was wounded by tooth and claw, and they had no choice but to flee the battle. The village was scattered, and their homes destroyed. Many of their women and children, including Eldin's own son, were torn apart. Though they suffered great numbers of dead, the trickster's legions drove out the men and made the village their own garrison from which to carry out further raids against Eldin and the people. Beaten, bruised, and overcome with grief at the loss of his family, Eldin cried out to the builder for justice. One night, as Eldin was sleeping, he was visited by a djinn in a dream. The djinn caused Eldin to be attacked by a multitude of creatures. He killed one after another, but took tooth and claw in equal measure until his strength faded. As he fell, he looked to the djinn standing on a hilltop against the sun. Beside him stood a man whose very flesh seemed to shine as bright as the sun. The djinn reached out and touched the shining man, igniting it in a flame of 1,000 suns. By this, conquer. Eldin awoke and told his man of the dream, unclear what to make of it. He had the same dream night after night, but the trickster's creatures nipping at their heels all the while. The meaning of this word, djinn, is unclear, but it appears to be some sort of fire spirit, very likely the same angelic being that would visit Eldin again later. On the 7th night, Eldin had the same dream, but this time he stood on the hilltop beside the djinn, watching his double be torn apart by the creatures. The djinn touched him, and he felt a fierce wrath come over his whole body. By this, conquer. Eldin beheld that his skin was covered in thick metal plates and awoke. That night, a forge was made, and Eldin the toolmaker began work on what would be the first version of his armor. The ringing of the hammer day after day, night after night, drew a great multitude of creatures to the cave in which they were hiding. Eldin's men were able to hold off the creatures while he worked, but more and more began to appear each day and the strength began to fade. Just as it seemed as though the man would be overwhelmed, a giant of a man with silver flesh emerged from the cave and waded in among the creatures. They fell upon him unafraid, laying into him with tooth and claw, but against metal flesh, teeth broke and claws scraped harmlessly, while the man answered them blow for blow, metal feet and hands crushing teeth and bone alike. The man was untouchable, and the legion's fell weapons could not penetrate his hardened flesh. Eldin's weary men marveled, as all but a few creatures were destroyed. The remaining few escaped, and for the first time in a long time, the legions of the trickster felt fear. The metal man, now red with blood and covered in fur, turned and removed his helm. It was Eldin, and his new armor had saved them all. Right, interesting. And you wanna keep this book, because we can do something with it a little later. This building is inaccessible, and we only have one left.
What there?
There you go. Here's a bottle of wine. There is a statue under the stairs. Nothing in this room. And here is a bug cloud. Now this one is just a particle system, though it can still hurt you. And there are 3 coins. There we go, total 735.
Noise.
Now we're gonna have to follow this guy. He has the cell key.
Get quiet. Nothing.
And here's a purse. Total 775. And in the furthest room, there is a caged crayman and a caged pagan.
Psst. Sneaksy one. Over here. Cityhead man fool. Long ways from home. Smells like oil and smokesies. Rats find you soon. Lost, yes? Need safe place from the creepsies, yes? And maybe we help each other.
I'm listening.
There is a village. Glimmer Grove. Maybe you knows. They fill you with arrows if they see you. But if Grimroot names you friend, they leave you bees.
New objective. Free this prisoner, and the pagans in his village of Glimmer Grove will be grateful. Optional.
Gives thee your mappings. There. Now you bees finding it. I bees sneaks out soon. Meets me at the village, Sneaksy one.
And our map has been updated with these 2 arrows, which doesn't really help much. And this objective we'll check off once we leave the dungeon. He's just gonna teleport to Glimmer Grove. let us make a real save. Next, I want to get a piece of loot in this cell, which means I need to let this Crayman out. Now he's gonna get in a fight with the Ratman, and most probably killed. Wow, it's interesting how this guy didn't see him. I guess it's dark down here. But I can already hear the sounds of fighting. And I think the Crayman just died. So now most, if not all, the Ratmen in the village will be on high alert, which is why I looted it beforehand. And that was the objective, to free the prisoner. Yeah, this guy is on high alert. Gotta wait for him to come down. Another one. In the ruin here, there is a statue. There is a crystal chunk back here. Next to this Ratman is a gold nugget, total 1005. There is a lake back here, but nothing of value. And around this ruin is a silver nugget and a statue. Total 1070, that's all the loot in the Nilbog area. Here we can cut down the vines, and no matter which entrance into these caves you take, you wanna go left first. We can cut down the vines on this entrance as well, for good measure. And the left path will take us to a cave with some barracks. Green barracks, but they behave just like regular ones. Here is a bone pile with a ring, pretty easy to get. And now we can move on. And here we're gonna be introduced to what I think is the most difficult enemy in the mission, at least for Ghostin: eyeball plants. Now, unlike the ones you might remember from Trail of Blood, these can actually attack you with projectiles. And while you can destroy them, just like Witcher plants, that would be against Ghostin rules, because these are AIs. It would be the same as destroying a Mechanist Watcher. They are also extremely sensitive, and they don't make any noise, but just like with Watchers, you can travel under their line of sight, which I'll end up doing quite a bit. And this takes us to the second main area of the mission, which I suppose is this. And somewhere around here is what looks like a Crayman.
Well, that's unsettling.
Now in reality, it's just a guy wearing a magical Crayman mask. Now we can wear it ourselves, and it'll make us friendly to all Craymen in the mission, but there's a few problems with using this mask. First of all, whenever you take it off, all the craymen in the immediate area will second alert. So while you can run around wearing this mask on and off, all the craymen around you will be going nuts all the time, and you will have to take it on and off, because while you're wearing it, you can't use your inventory, you can't use your weapons, so it's really cumbersome. And because we have to knock out a guy to get it in the first place, that's not even an option for ghosting. Here is a cabin, and there are two thugs, one inside and one outside. They both have purses.
Is that you? Don't see anything now.
Gotta be careful when trying to get in, because the guy can be staring at the door. Let's read this. For the longest time, there weren't nothing to chop but piss elm. That shit burns quicker than black powder and makes more smoke than heat, but I'm in luck. Found a small copse of red elm when I was out ranging. One chunk of that stuff will burn hot all night and keep me nice and dry. I'll sharpen my axe and head out tomorrow. Need to stop by the swamp witch's hut for more of those shrooms anyway. They smell like a barrack's arse, but the flies hate them. The smoke they give off keeps the biting bastards at bay. Maybe I'll pick up a few of those plants she wanted. She ain't pretty, but it's been a while since I've seen a woman. When the barrack's hungry... Almost a year since I ducked out at Aport. Looks like Ramirez gave up the chase after all. Don't know if his boys found out I went native and figured me dead, or if my hasty distraction managed to fool them. Poor bastard I knifed at the gate had only his mom to blame for being cursed with my ugly mug. Lost my best cloak out of the deal, but it's better than sleeping with the swills. And I still got the vase. Who'd have thought a good-for-nothing Ellerat like me could carve out an existence and thrive in this here swamp? This place has a way of infecting everything. Impossible to keep out the deaf and damp, and things I didn't think could rot begin to prove me wrong. It's all for naught if I don't find a dry place to stash me vase. When I was chopping down those elms, I couldn't shake the feeling of eyes upon me. Made the hair on my neck stand stiff as a hammer in a brothel, but there weren't nobody about. Old hag said I probably made some old tree spirit angry. She called it a squatch or summer, but methinks the damp has got into her old wrinkled noggin. Can't sleep. I dreamed I was floundering in the mud, trying to keep my vase above the surface. The old witch was there, and she helped me out, but it was too late. Vase turned to frog slime in my hands. Then the hag was a tree, pulling me into her hollowed-out trunk with gnarled fingers, and I felt warm as a cuddled baby. The swamp is like a jealous mom, bringing her children back to herself. I think my mind is rotten. Found a nice place, but it's overrun with swamp craze. A festering cut could be death out here, so I can't risk a fight. The old hag told me about a face changer that lives somewhere in the swamp. Said he's got old magics, things to make the craze think me an old mate. Guess he ain't exactly human though, so dealing with him might be complicated. I got instructions for how to call him. Pretty wacky stuff, but I've got to get this face out of the damp. Builder's balls, the biggest moth I have ever seen, just attacked me in the garden. I managed to shut myself in the cabin, but I hope it don't figure out the curtains ain't a barrier. He's landed on the roof and keeps whispering things to me. Sometimes I can almost understand him. Some goddamn melon thing is scraping at the door. I ain't going out tonight. Moths are gone this morning. Guess they cleared out. I better get my vase to a safe place before they come back. If only I could find some fire crystals. Well, it's done, and my vase is safe at last. Was really weird seeing that little creep holding my face in his hands. Don't know why anyone would want this old mug. Takes all kinds, I reckon. A few bugs and a copy of my face are a small price to pay. The place is perfect, and I can go in and out whenever I want. I couldn't ask for better guards. The Krays are vicious, efficient, and always looking to cut up anything without fillers. The best part is, I don't even have to pay them. They ain't interested in my treasure neither, so I ain't gotta worry about them running off to pawn it in the night. Say, that face changer is pretty slick. I wonder if you could give me a new look to go back to the city with. Maybe something the ladies would like. I could finally get out of this godforsaken swamp and retire with a wench on each arm, with Ramirez none the wiser. Just thinking I can see a lantern in the distance. Tough it old hell. How?
A vase, huh? I'll have to make a little room for it.
So the Crayman, quote-unquote, we saw, was the guy living here. And to get his vase, we'll need this, a rogue's key. There is also a flint and steel here. And a list of bugs. 2 dragonflies, 2 butterflies, 1 hawkmoth. Okay, interesting.
Oh, well, it must have been nothing. Halt! Is someone there?
Now we can go for a swim. There is a piece of loot in the lake. Here we go, a chest. We're gonna have to lockpick it. Coin stack, total 1295. And on the other side of the lake, there is an inconspicuous passage. Let's save it here. In the water here, there is a snake, because of course there is. And here is the witch's hut that we read about. Up on the rafters is a spice bag, and this is just a healing potion, and here we have an empty jar, which I'll explain in a minute. He who walks between the worlds, whose shape is all shapes, whose face is all faces. Once I've glimpsed you, twice I've heard you, thrice I've felt your presence in the night, when all is black and hidden from sight. Like a half-remembered dream, terrible and beautiful, I am yours. In the footlocker here, there is a mask. Total 1385, and through this crystal ball, we can see a room that we can't actually visit in this mission, but we will in the last one. And the empty jar we need if we wanna catch all these bugs. And we wanna do that to summon the face changer. Now we won't actually meet the face changer himself, but we will gain access to his realm, which is a pretty interesting place, so of course we wanna do that. Near this ruined wall is a snake. And the first bug we need to catch is actually found right here. It's a dragonfly, which flies around a pretty large area, but it's easiest to notice and capture right where this crayman stops. Here we go. Now, when you have all the bugs, you gotta bring the jar to a small cave back here, which is kinda difficult to notice. You drop the jar onto this tree stump, rub it, and you get transported to Face Changer's
Did
realm.
that shadow move?
That's actually gonna be the last thing we do in the mission.
So wet. Mold everywhere down here.
On the outskirts of Nilbog, there is a butterfly, so let's catch it as well while we're here. And this, I think, is the best place to do it. Now, there is a really nasty bug that can happen when you're doing this. While you can catch the first insect, no problem, the other 4 can actually crash a game. It doesn't always happen, but of course it's annoying when it does. And there is a DML to fix this issue, which I'll link in the video description. I'm playing with it installed, and it seems to be working fine. Because without it, catching this butterfly consistently crashed my game. Alright, I see it. And we're done with this area, so we can move on. Gotta mind the snake. And the only way to proceed here is this. Now we wanna go into this tunnel first. There is an eyeball plant here. Behind this barrack is a bone pile with a ring, total 1460. And here we have a tower and an ancient key. Now this key we absolutely need to finish the mission. It's a little bit hard to find, but there is a hint later on about its location. Now this will take us to an ancient temple, which is completely infested with craymen. It's this place right here, but we don't wanna go in there just yet. Instead we wanna go here, which will take us to Glimmer Grove. So this will take us back to where we came from. And here it doesn't matter which path you take, they converge. But this way you can find another book. The Forging of Godbreaker. Many have endeavored to record the acts of Sereldin and his knights, but alas, many have relied upon hearsay from distant secondary sources, far removed from the man himself. Threads of reliable accounts persists, if one puts in the effort, but I fear that continued reliance upon oral tradition may muddy the waters. I have been thorough in my investigations of the events from the beginning, my dear Timur, and I can boast of several primary sources, though lost, and even one first-hand account. I have collected these and compiled them into a reliable narrative, and so I, Tertius, humble scribe of the builder, do now put quill to parchment and begin. The Forging of Godbreaker. One day, while Sereldin was at the forge, a great star fell blazing from the heavens and crashed into the hillside nearby. Eldin retrieved the shining black stone, and his men marveled over it. What is the mystery of this black stone? Some asked. Though it was a fire, behold, it is as cold as ice. It is surely a piece of the night sky, for it is black like sackcloth, yet shimmers like the starry mantle, said others. That night, Sereldin was visited by a fiery angelic being in a dream. With eyes like the noonday sun, the being revealed a great many things that had been lost to men eons ago. The next day, Sereldin gathered his men and revealed what the angel had shown him. This is what the angel has shown me. This stone is a gift from the heavens. With it, I will forge a weapon the likes of which has never touched the earth. We shall be free from the trickster at last. I will use it to cut through his armies. They shall fall before me like wheat to a scythe. I will mount the oaken throne and tear the bramble crown from his head. I will throw him down to the earth and cleave him in two. Such a great cry arose that all within miles thought a battle must surely be taking place. Man and beast both cowered fearfully in their dwellings. Day and night Eldin worked at the forge, trying with all his might to bend the metal to his will. No matter how hot the forge was made, no matter how hard he struck it, the stone gave not. He spent many nights in fitful sleep, awaiting the guidance of the angel, but it never came. In despair, he left his home and journeyed alone into the wilderness to seek the angel. After many days with no food or water, Eldin fell into the dust. Unable to travel further, he found relief and sustenance in the shade of a fig tree. That night he was visited by the fiery angel. He was shown a deep fissure in the earth, where melted stone bubbled and hissed great plumes of steam. This is the earth forge. It is the place of my kin, and is hotter than any fire of man. Use it to tame the stone and create your weapon. Eldin asked, Where can I find this place? Go home and gather your men. Bring them with the stone to the south. On the third day, look to the west. Follow the great column of smoke by day and the red fire by night. There you will behold the great chasm. Descend and drive out those that dwell there. The next day Eldin returned home and did as the angel bid. After 3 days of traveling with his men, Eldin did behold the column of smoke. They did follow it, and after 3 more days did they reach the great chasm the angel spoke of. Eldin traveled into the chasm alone. Great noises, quite fearsome, as if from many savage beasts, poured out of the earth, and the man beheld scaly, sharp-toothed creatures fleeing from the rift into the hills in small groups throughout the day. After all the creatures had gone, the sound of metal upon metal rang out loud and clear over the whole assembly, and men cheered joyfully in celebration, and feasted upon the scorched flesh of some of the fallen creatures. Many wineskins were passed around, and the men made a great merriment, for Eldin had begun his work. For 3 days and 3 nights Eldin worked on the stone, stopping only for short moments to take food and drink with his men. On the morning of the 4th day, at dawn, Eldin emerged from the chasm and held aloft a magnificent sword of black shimmering metal. It was freezing to the touch, but seemed to burn like fire with Eldin's will. This is how Godbreaker, the sword that would one day defeat the vile trickster, was forged. Alright, and we want to keep this book as well. Now this will just take us back to where we came from, and this is the way to Glimmergrove. Now let's save here. Now here is one place in this mission where having fog is actually pretty detrimental. Because further up here is an eyeball plant, and there is a good chance that by the time you see it, it will have already seen you. So I'm gonna turn off the fog for this small section. It can't see us this far down the tunnel. Now we can turn it back on. The floating lantern is called a wraith. We're gonna learn more about them a little later. But it's an enemy, it will hurt you if it gets close. Behind the rock here is a silver nugget. And now we can go meet up with Grimroot. The tree beasts in this area are neutral, I believe. No need to worry about them. And here we have a butterfly.
Wait till here. Grimroot Bee's calling you when it be's safe. Sneaksy, Glimmergrove names you friend. You be's welcome.
Right. Now the pigs are friendly to us. And we made our way to a village right here.
Think it's safe.
Let's talk to some people. And catch this dragonfly.
Welcome, friend. Greetings and salutations from Glimmer Grove. Word has reached my ears of Grimroot's rescue. For that you have my thanks. I am Cypress, shaman of Glimmer Grove.
Shaman? You don't talk like a pagan.
I am indeed shaman, but I was not raised in the bosom of the woodsy lord.
If I had to place you by your accent, I'd say you hailed from Blackbrook. A highborn lady, like as not. What's a noble from the courts of Blackbrook doing all the way out here?
You have a good ear, my illustrious rogue. I was indeed born in Blackbrook to a noble house. In my youth, I sought... Well, never mind all that. I'm here now. What no doubt pious undertaking brings you to our fair grove?
I am searching for an ancient relic. Its last known resting place was this swamp.
A relic of the ancient order of the Knights of the Shining Sun, I'm sure.
Yes.
I recall the legends, but I've seen no sign of Eldon or his knights. You could ask Brother Embry. He's up in the chapel. He can be rather insightful when he's not proselytizing. In any case, I wish you luck on your quest. Perhaps, while searching for this relic, you'd consider helping us again?
And what would you have me do?
Deep in the swamp, an ancient woodsy temple lies in ruin. You may have come across it already. My people seek to return to this temple and restore it to its former glory, but it's currently overrun with craymen. We've tried many times to take it back by force, but we've failed, and now we lack the numbers to make another attempt.
It would take a sizable group of well-armed and armored fighters to take that temple back. I don't think I can help you there.
I suspect there is another way. A way more suited to one with your skill.
Suspect?
Before it became a woodsy temple, it belonged to the ancient precursors as a sanctuary to worship the elements, specifically one of their fire gods. Ancient precursor lore speaks of wandering fire guardians that protected the place day and night.
Well, it sounds like those days are long gone since it's overrun with craze. Not to mention the considerably damp environment.
I found writings that had been passed down to the shaman before me. They talk of a great mouth that was cooled with a drink of water in order to keep away the fiery ones.
Poetic nonsense.
Perhaps, but I've pieced together a plan. According to the standard precursor temple layout, somewhere in that temple lies a brazier that was used to summon fire elementals. If we can activate it, they should do our job for us and destroy all the craze.
But then you have the elementals to contend with.
A single splash of water will snuff an elemental. Not so with craze. The elementals are the stone, the craze are the scissors, and you're the parchment. After they're destroyed, you must find a way to deactivate the brazier. Then, return to me.
Oh, it's just that simple.
By all means, you're free to fight them instead. As long as the craze are destroyed, I don't care how it's done. Take it or leave it. If you try my idea, it should be fairly simple.
So you want me to sneak into an ancient temple that's completely overrun with Kragman and figure out how to kill them all. Sounds easy enough. Please tell me why this is in my interest.
Money talks, but I'm afraid we don't have much in the way of gold. This swamp is full of fell creatures. Among them is the giant dreadmoth. Their wings emit a toxin which will weaken and kill their prey, but I've concocted a potion which will make you immune to their devices for a while. Help us, and it's yours.
Right then. I'll certainly consider it.
New objective. Get rid of all the enemies in the ruined temple for the pagan shaman. Optional. Now let's talk to Brother Embry.
Well met, brother. I beg you, pay no heed to the state of this house of the builder. 'Tis a work in progress. I suppose you're coming from the city? Or maybe Blackbrook by the look of you.
One of those. Tell me, what's a Hammerite doing out in the middle of this festering bog with a pack of unbelieving pagans? Surely your sermons would be more welcome elsewhere.
Ha! This is true, but the words of the builder are for all men, brother. It must be proclaimed even unto these far reaches. If not me, then who? Also, I did grow weary of seeing the decadence of city life rot away the souls of my brethren. They've abandoned charity and have forgone the virtues of grace and mercy. It's become a sad state indeed. But I digress. Why is it that you come here, brother? I would think your motives much different than mine own.
I am seeking the tomb of Sereldin. Various sources point to this area as a good place to start.
Ah, yes, the Knights of the Shining Sun. A goodly sort, though it wouldn't do well to mention them around this lot. I too have read that the tomb is hidden somewhere in the area. In fact, I meant to perhaps find it and bless it one day. Many years ago, one of my brethren sought the tomb. Old Brother Abel. He journeyed deep into these swamps and was never seen again. I've got a few old tomes on the knights in here somewhere. You're welcome to them if you think they'd help in your search.
I'll take all the help I can get.
As will I, dear brother. Sereldin's tomb was once an essential pilgrimage for our order, and the font it housed was renowned for the blessings it dispensed to faithful travelers. But alas, I fear it has fallen into disrepair after all these years. As I said before, I have long dreamt of blessing it and returning it to its former glory, but ill luck and the trickster's foul legions have prevented me from finding it. You seem a capable sort. If you can bless the reservoir from which the font flows, perhaps you can banish the shadow which has fallen over this land for a time. Here, take this. Oh, and if you come across the remains of our lost brother, please bring me a token of his fate. Abel was a pious man, and his rosary would not be far from his side.
That's a tall order, but I'll see what I can do. If you can make it worth my while.
I have little to offer beyond a blessing or rousing discussion of theological paradoxes, but you're most welcome to anything of use you can find in this chapel. Additionally, in your travels, if you come across any ancient writings on Eldin or the Order, either from pious or pagan pens, you can sell them to me. I have a little gold left over from the city, but it doesn't do me much good here.
New objectives. Return Abel's rosary to Brother Embry, optional. Now, Blessed Water is something we absolutely need to finish the mission, and if you don't befriend the pagans, you have to get it yourself from the room below. You'll have to pick the lock on this hatch. Now, Brother Embry also said that we can sell him some books about Sereldin.
Ah, you found one. The Forging of Godbreaker. From the collected letters of Tertius the Scribe, if I'm not mistaken. Good find, brother. Here's a bit of gold. An ancient book. The Forging of Sereldin's Armor. We had a copy in the city library, but it went missing. Luckily, I had already copied it down, so the content wasn't lost. I can hardly wait to begin comparing textual variants. Here, have some gold.
Right, there is one more book we can find. In my last letter, most excellent and humor, I informed you of how Eldin first forged armor. I included footnotes with some explanation, because you had expressed confusion in other letters, and I felt it prudent to avoid such in the future. I apologize if they seemed patronizing in any way. I assure you that was not my intent. You'll be pleased to hear that the southern pass has now dried out since the thaw, and is once more being used as a means of trade. I intend to send you everything I have gathered thus far on the order, all packaged with care, by horse and cart very soon. Thank you for the lovely brandy. It has kept me in good spirits these past nights. For now, allow me to tell you of how the order was first formed. Once again, this is a compilation of accounts from various sources, some more reliable than others. I have tried to clean the dusty lens of history by separating fact from fable, but this is hard to do with the scant primary sources. The founding of the Divine Order of the Knights of the Shining Sun. The trickster's forces were scattered to the four winds in fear of Eldin's iron-skinned army. None could stand against them. They seemed impervious to any weapon of the enemy, barring the twisted magics of the trickster himself. Though Eldin and his people feared little from the forces of chaos, other men throughout the land still lay in hiding, fearing to journey from their simple dwellings. Eldin contemplated this, and called forth his closest advisors in the council. There was Sir Marcus the Swift of the Riverlands, Sir Laird the Just from the hill country to the west, Sir Boyd the Wise of Eldin's own house, and Sir Fergus the Learned, Eldin's own scribe from the eastern mountains. After much talk, the idea arose of a divine order of knights who would do more than just defend their own, but would travel to and fro, throwing down the trickster's temples and slaying his creatures wherever found. As a sigil, the sun emblem was chosen because of how the sun's light reflected brightly upon their armor, just as they were meant to reflect the light of the Builder to all men. And thus the Order of the Knights of the Shining Sun arose. All throughout the land, men began to creep out of hiding, and many took up the cause, forging what meager armor they could. The trickster forces were beaten back. The way of things was steadily becoming inversed. Now it was men who roamed to and fro, doing as they pleased, and it was the beasts of the trickster who crept into holes and dark forests, fearful of man and his iron fists. Barracks in the parlor. It's been quite some time since I rescued Hawthorne from the Dreadmoth. I fear that is the only reason these people tolerate my presence. That and the Builder's fire, should any foul creatures encroach. Fire is especially effective against most everything that lives here. Despite this, still no progress on any sort of conversation. Fortunately, I'm a patient man. Repairs continue on this decaying house of the Builder. The moths are getting more bold of late. Twice last week, I had to dodge small groups of them, moving through the trees not far from here. Typically, one or two of those earthbound females were accompanied by several winged male guards. Whether hunting or scouting, I know not. Hemorrhage expeditions typically carry explosives to open paths throughout stone. If I could only find the remains of Brother Abel, I could gather whatever they haven't used to build some type of bomb. Then there remains the difficult matter of slipping unnoticed into the hive and placing it in just the right spot to start a chain reaction to kill them all. Of course, I haven't the skill to carry out such a thing. Should the builder grant me the strength, it would surely convince the slot of his superiority over their woodsy demon. I shall pray on it. New objectives. Find the abandoned explosive device near the moth hive and use it to wipe out the hive, optional. There's one more person we can talk to.
Sneaksy, Hawthorn Bee's needing your help. It's my precious twig. We were out gathering fruit and she spies some good jackberry up in a tree. We were too far from homes, but Twiggers, always she loves to climb and I was careful to watch for creepsies. I look away for a second and then mothsies. Damn flying creepsy. Swoops he down and takes my Twiggers away. I still be hearing her screams for Daddy through the trees. Forever I use it. Poor Twigsies. My lotus petal. Father couldn't help you.
I'm sorry, but I doubt she's still alive after.
No, this be's happening only a short times ago. The mothsies be's keeping their catchings always fresh until feeding times. She be's alive, I knows it. There be's a nest through crags to the west. Hard to get to without wings, and lots of creepsies on the way. Hawthorn has no hopes of making it, but I be seeing the way you move through the shadows. A sneaksy like you might just be making it.
I'll try.
Oh, much thanking, Sneaksy. The mothsies be's afeard of fire, but Hawthorn be's having no builder magics. Maybe Embry knows. You goes now. Woodsy give you wings.
New objectives. Rescue Twig from the giant moths whose hive is nearby, optional. So as you see, you can avoid befriending the pagans, but if you do, you're skipping out on a lot of content. And we're gonna accomplish all of these objectives, naturally. In the village, there are also 2 pieces of loot. One is on the roof here, and it counts as a secret. And there's one in here. Total 1785. Right. Let's save it. Now we can head for the ancient temple. In the temple, there is a whole bunch of loot. There's an artifact. There's also a chest under this stairwell. This will be our way forward, eventually. For now, let's take this peculiar keystone and the letter. The Firekeeper's Ritual. We have a collection of robins taken from Nilbog site generations ago. The southern precursors took our ritual used to summon their fire lords. The inscription is below, with Maya notes based on the accompanying glyphs. Best of luck, Ibn al-Hasar. Ritual of Summoning. Standing before the gate, an offering of knowledge, a spark of life. The gate appears to be some sort of throne or dais, half the height of a man. Fire was deified, perhaps a brazier. Knowledge in this sense appears to be poured from some sort of jar or vase. It was believed that the mind and experience remained with the remains of those departed, perhaps a jar of ashes. The spark of life is certainly a flame, the source of all life and death according to them. P.S. There is one more thing of note in the glyphs. The ritual appears to be performed by a figure known as the Firekeeper. He is easily distinguished from the other figures by a prominent amulet, which appears to keep the Fire Lords at bay. Right, interesting. Gonna wait in here for a bit. That's the brazier that will activate. And near this lamp there is a button. Reveals a secret with a gold cup, total 21.25. Now we can head in here and find an ornate dagger. Near that lamp is another button. Total 23.25. These are the only two secrets in the temple. This chest we can lockpick. A gold statue here. And in this room there is a Crumbling Diary. Hammerheads be calling me a liar, but my kin beats there in them sunshiny days of Eldin the Killer. Hims and the metal manfuls be the slayer of all that is greens and goodsy. Not so grim was the world as they be having it. The woodsy lord did rule us all, but mostly left us bees. His beasts be roaming the land, but they be not harm us woodsy folk, so long as we be keeping the old ways. Keeps with the old ways still. This temple was once a woodsy place. A great tree grew here, honoring our woodsy king. Later, fire-handed manfuls be cutting it down to make them a place to worship their fiery lords. They knows not what they ask for, and ruin falls soon after. Now he keeps it a goodsy place against the cold, and puts we up a statue of our lord. Eldin curses ever peace upon him, takes his iron army, and smashes the woodsy one. Our precious lord thrown down to crawl the away and hide. Never we be forgetting that. Eldin is long gone now, poisoned by the woodsy one as he fell. Alone and Crypsy killer it was. Years it took to slay the giant, just as he deserved. Now I has rallied the beasts against Nilbog. I has struck down them hammerheads and drives them out. We cursed and sealed the tomb with magics. Only I is opening it, with this lantern locked away and safe. Only I has the key. Scattered with the bones of his men, and now they wander lost. He and they is forever guarding this land from the vile hammerheads long after we dies. Nobody comes to weep for Eldin the Butcher. There bees a rumbling in the distance all day today, but sees I no clouds. The southern tower is giving me a clearer view tonight. So that's the hint to where you can find the key to open the safe, which we already have. And inside is an ancient lantern, which we'll need to access Eldin's tomb. Down here are 3 pieces of loot. There we go. And in the crematorium, there is a necklace on the mummy, total 2765, and an urn of sacred ashes that we need to activate the brazier.
Looks like some kind of keystone fits here.
Alright, let's put the keystone in here, and while the door opens, we can grab a couple more pieces of loot. There's another gold statue, and there is a ring in this room. Now, we don't want to come too close to that gate, because the 2 braziers will light up. We don't want that for now. Let's take this mask and head upstairs. And it looks like some kind of ornate dagger fits here. Once it has served its purpose, you can actually take it. Brings our total to 3065, and that checks off our loot goal. Inside are 2 more pieces of loot. $32.40. This is the Firekeeper's Amulet. Now, this doesn't make you friendly to fire elementals. All it does is make you immune to fire damage. So the fire elementals will still attack you, but they won't be able to harm you in any way. And here is another brazier. Now, we can activate this one, but I won't, for reasons I'll explain later. All I want to do here is flip this lever. This opens the throne room, but we don't want to go in there just yet. And it also spawns some new enemies down here, which look like members of the Dark Witch from Broken Triad. Now, I'm pretty sure Random Taffer used them because he thought they look cool, but it could be interesting to come up with an explanation for why they are here. And the objective, to get rid of all the enemies in the temple, means all the enemies. These guys included, not just the Craymen. So for now, we just want to sneak out of here. Which can be pretty tricky, but eventually an opening will present itself. Alright. Now we gotta head upstairs to the brazier and activate it. Alright, let's make a save here. So I will say up front that what we're about to do is a bust a ghost. You are not allowed to cause AI infighting. It's only when it occurs beyond your control that it's allowed. So if you're strictly committed to the ghosting rules, you can just ignore the objective to kill everyone in the temple, or you can even avoid having it added to your list in the first place by never talking to the shaman. This is just the cleanest way to do it. At the very least, we'll have our hands clean, and we will never be spotted. So we put the ashes in the brazier, light it up with flint and steel. You can also use a fire arrow. And what's gonna happen next is fire elementals will start spawning from the brazier. They will attack the Crayman, and the sounds of fighting should lure out the guys in the throne room to come out and join the fight as well. And because they are hostile to everyone, it'll be a three-way fight, as a result of which only the fire elementals have to survive. Now, it's impossible for all of them to die, because when one fire elemental dies, a new one will spawn. But this fight doesn't always play out exactly like I described. There are a couple problems. First of all, the throne room guys not always wanna come out of there. Sometimes they just stay in there and search the throne room itself for whatever reason. There are also two Craymen, one in the crypts and one near the tower at the entrance to the temple, who are a bit too far from all the action. Fire elementals don't patrol that far, so those Craymen have to come to the center of the temple for them to be killed. So if this doesn't go like we want, we'll just have to reload. It seems to be going fine so far. The more of those firebolt explosions there are, the better. It increases the chances of everyone getting more and more alert and converging in the temple. So these guys are already here. This is good. So yeah, it's a busty ghost, but I'm doing it because I want to do everything that there is to do in the mission. And also, don't quote me on this, but I think it's impossible to get all the loot in the temple with all the enemies around here still alive. So that's another reason. Massacre going on there. That's great. The undead spellcasters are really effective against fire elementals. They can just douse them with their skull projectiles. Looks like this guy survived. Oh, there are two of them. Did they just wipe out all of the undead creatures? If so, that's fantastic. And I actually don't hear any Craymen either. Let me check something. That's the Crypt Crayman, he's dead. There is no one left back here. Alright, so I can show you the Firekeeper's Amulet in action. Now the guy who was patrolling here, at the very least he's not patrolling here anymore. moment of truth. If everyone is indeed dead as we need, then dousing the brazier should complete this objective. Nice! So now we just have to do this without actually being spotted by the fire elementals. This is unbelievable how lucky it was. It can take quite a few attempts until we get the outcome we want. But it looks like the fire elementals just wiped out everyone in like a couple of minutes. Well, I'm not complaining. Let me actually make another real save right away. Now we can loot the rest of the temple. Starting with getting the phase we read about.
This should fetch a nice shum.
And actually, I don't need any of these keys anymore. We can also destroy all the cray eggs for a bonus objective. Every cray I wanted cray. Bonus. Right, let's go back to the throne room. Get the loot in there. There's a helm. 5 more pieces of loot back here. Total 4305. Another jar of ashes, which you can use on the second brazier. I didn't do it because the fire elementals it spawns come down only to this room and they don't patrol any further, so they are kind of useless. And because the Firekeeper's Amulet makes you immune to fire damage, you can actually swim in lava. Which is cool, but ultimately useless, because it doesn't lead anywhere. I think there should have been like a secret back here, which you can only access this way. And I still can't believe how well this fight went. On my practice run it took 4 attempts, I think. And then the successful attempt took twice as long. Right, now we can move on. We have this little cave system here, which is like a big loop. It has 2 exits. This one will take us to the Moth Hive. And the one at the back here will take us to Eldin's tomb. And we want to go here first.
Well, that's the tomb, all right. Sealed shut, of course. There must be a way to get that door open.
Well, there is a way to get the door open. We even read about it. You just need to place this ancient lantern on the pedestal over there once the wraith leaves that place. Doesn't look like it saw me there. it would have changed its patrol path. New objective. Sereldin's ghost appears to be cursed. Find a way to break the curse and free its spirit. Well, that's exactly what Brother Ember wanted to do. So we just need to use the Blessed Water on this. And objective complete.
You are the one who broke the curse. What do you seek, friend?
Are you Sereldin?
I am. Or at least, I think I was a long time ago. My mind is clouded with the trickster's vile magic. Why did you come here?
I seek to recover your sword, Sereldin.
Ah, Godbreaker. Yes. I should have known. It is yours, friend. Please take it as a gift for ridding me of the curse. But I'm afraid it's lost its edge of late. Wielded by my wicked hands, the righteous blade was sapped of all the fiery wrath it once possessed.
Fiery wrath, you say? Huh.
Ah, it's coming back to me now. If you could have only seen it, high upon the hilltop with Godbreaker aloft, I came crashing down upon the trickster's shadowy legions like the builder's hammer upon the anvil of the world. Ah, none could stand before me, not even the trickster himself.
Yes, I've heard the stories.
Not mere stories, Ren. The world changed that day. No longer would men cower and scrape before the minions of the woodsy demon. I climb his cigarette. My knights and enemies lie broken upon the steps, but I climb on like an avatar of the sun. I threw him down, and he cowered before me. I tore the bramble crown from his head and clove him in twain.
That explains the goat legs.
Yes. Despite my defiance, the trickster endured and crawled into a dark hole somewhere. After my death, his cowardly priests found my tomb. They cursed me and the weapon that threw down their master. Then they cursed the tombs of my loyal knights, turning them into wraiths. Wraiths that are always searching for me. Searching, but never finding.
I think I've come across them. Lost souls with witch-like lanterns.
Yes, my men still wander this festering bog. Thanks to you, they are all that remain of the trickster's curse. If you can find and bless their remains with the water from my fountain, you can break their curse as well. Take heed, friend. They will harm you if they can. Once all the curses are broken, I will use my remaining influence to bring Godbreaker to its former glory, before I retire to the halls of the Builder.
Splendid. We've got a deal then. I'll be back.
Builder be with you.
New objectives. Uncurse all of Elden's knights by blessing their remains with water from the fountain, then return to the tomb for the sword. So here's the water. Now we have 4 blessed waters. And the reason I'm standing here when talking to him is because the wraith outside can actually spot me. So wherever there is a wraith, there is also a bone pile we have to bless. In this case, it's in the ruin right here. Here it is. But I want to bless it when the wraith is above solid surface and not above water, because it's gonna drop and alert pretty much everyone around here. That I don't want. There is a snake here. Right, will this work? Yes, it did. So there are 3 more. One of them is near Glimmer Grove, if you remember. And when we got here, it said our map has been updated, so more arrows. This is Eldin's tomb. Next we're heading for the last area in the mission, the Moth Hive. And even though the shaman said she can give us a potion that helps with the toxins emitted by the moths, we don't actually need that potion. I mean, it's helpful, but we can do without it. So, not to waste any time, I'm not gonna go back to Glimmer Grove right now. I'm just gonna move on. I think I missed my turn. Here we go. Now here, the path on the right, we don't wanna take. It leads to this flooded area, and that's the water which slows you down. There is no loot here, so we don't wanna go this way. But here we have a plateau, and the path on the left will take us to the top of that plateau. No one can hear this. Got another fork in the road here. We wanna go to the tunnel with the pitcher plant first. And that's the top of the plateau. Somewhere around here is a hawk moth. Here it is. Now we have a jar full of bugs, so we can go to the Face Changer's realm, but we have some more important business to attend to. That's the cave entrance I showed you just a couple minutes ago. Here is an old rosary, so that's Brother Abel, the rosary we can give to Brother Embry, and an explosive charge, which we need to destroy the Moth Hive. Now down there is also another wraith, and the bone pile is in this ruin right here, but the problem is that the wraith travels almost exclusively above water. There is only one place really where we can land it silently, so to speak, and it's actually heading away from there. That won't do. When it's on the edge of land and water, it's certainly gonna fall into the water. Right, here we go. Good. Now we can head this way. There is an eyeball plant here. This doesn't lead anywhere. And this will take us to a small cave with another wraith. This one is a little easier to deal with. Right, only one left. We know where it is. And this takes us to the moth hive. So that's the giant tree marked here. Let's make a save. So here we have some bug beasts and a brand new enemy, giant moths. These guys leave a trail of particles behind them, but that's nothing to worry about. They do, however, deal what's pretty much contact damage. That's what the shaman's potion can help you with.
I don't like the look of this one bit.
Well, let's head inside, shall we? So, on this level of the moth hive there are two pieces of loot. Here is a necklace, and on the other side there is another bone pile with a ring. It's actually much easier to get to it through here. The upper level is very heavily patrolled. Right, that was just the first alert. I should be safe here. Here is the ring. And finally, in the middle here, there is a pagan child, which is of course Twig, who we need to rescue, and a place to put the explosive charge.
This fuse should give me enough time to make it out if I don't dawdle.
Now here is where the Firekeeper's Amulet comes in handy again. With it, we can just stay here after lighting the fuse. We'll be safe. And if we hold Twig in our arms like this, she's immune to all the fire damage as well. However, that's boring. Let's do this the intended way. Oh no, this guy is stuck. Right, that works. And once everything blows up, everyone around here dies. So that's the objective, to destroy the moth hive. Completed. In the ruin here there is a statue, total 45-30. And now we can just go back to Glimmer Grove and turn in all the side quests we've completed. This bug swarm is still alive though. I really like that carrying Twig doesn't actually slow you down, like carrying a body usually does. I mean, it makes sense, she's a child, but it's good from gameplay perspective, because carrying her all the way back to Glimmer Grove with the movement speed penalty would have been tedious as hell. Gotta say, if you do all the side objectives, the swamp becomes much safer. Also, here is another proof that holding Twig in her arms protects her from all the fire damage. Right, let's turn off the fog once again. And I think I'm gonna deal with this wraith on my way out of here.
Twig! Sneaksy, you did it! How can Hawthorne ever pay? I have no golds or city head things. Wait, I knows.
There be's the shiny stone Twiggers found. Forgetting it till now's. Here, you takers it. Maybe it be's getting you lots of gold. Oh, Twigsies, my little plumsy.
Right, this stone is worth 300, so that's a very nice reward.
You've returned.
Yes. You shouldn't have a problem any longer. The temple has been emptied.
Of its treasure, too, I'm sure. But an empty treasury is better than a severed head, I suppose. Here's the potion, as I promised. Farewell, good thief.
Thanks, but I don't really need it anymore. I don't even have to talk to her. The objective checked off quite a while ago. And the Crumbling Diary is the last book we can give to Brother Embry. I don't think I mentioned that when I picked it up.
Oh, this appears to be a pagan account written during the years of the sun. How interesting. It's sure to be a rather scathing read. I can hardly wait. Here's some gold.
Alright.
That was the last of my gold, brother. I'm sure you'll put it to better use than I could out here.
And we can give him the rosary.
Oh, brother, thank you for returning Abel's rosary. 'Tis a good deed you have done.
He doesn't give us anything, but it's a good deed. So now we have completed all the optional objectives. Let's make what's probably our last real save. Now we can go deal with that last wraith. Just need to wait for it to come out here. Here we go. Now we can head back to Eldin's tomb and claim Godbreaker, and this wisp is kinda preventing me from going out. So I do think this is a really well-paced mission, but this late into it, the backtracking does become noticeable. At the very least, most of the objectives are optional, so I can't complain too much.
Marcus, Laird, Fergus, Boyd, Builder be praised. It's good to see your faces again.
What are your orders, Lord Eldon?
The war's over, men. Let us leave this place and go to the Builder's halls of glory.
For sun and sword!
My men and I thank you, friend. Take Godbreaker and smite the trickster's legions wherever you may find them. Knights, we ride!
Quite the find. I'm a bit tempted to keep this for myself.
Right, that's all the objectives completed. We can leave. Though, not before visiting the Face Changer's realm, of course. Now after this we really have only one mission left. Technically two, but one of them is just an interactive cutscene. And the last mission, while it's not as big as this one, I think is definitely the most difficult. It's also way more open, and the prospect of figuring out a good route through it already kinda intimidates me. Right? The Face Changer's realm is a really dark place. And here we have what looks like a treehouse with some pictures. So that's the room we saw in Mission 1, that's our apartment. So I think that's Connell sleeping on the bed, and is this the Face Changer watching us? It's kinda creepy. The other pictures actually show the events that haven't happened yet. This room, for example, we'll see in the last mission, and there is Godbreaker on the table there. There is this island in the middle, but there is nothing to do there. This is also something that will happen later. And here is a passage that'll lead to some strange structure, which kinda looks like a library or a church, not sure. And here we have the sleeper, for some reason. But it counts as a secret. It's the last piece of loot, bringing the total to 5230. There is a church we're gonna visit in the last mission, and I think that's the last picture. So from here is another passage that actually leads out of here. And this takes us back to the temple. And if we try to go back... Wow, what happened here? Right, there we go. That was the first alert from the tree beast at the end there, but nothing to worry about. Mission complete. In 1 hour, 31 minutes 55 seconds. Found all the loot, 5230, picked 2 pockets, and 7 locks. We also found all 6 secrets, and I'm surprised I don't have any bodies discovered by enemies here. Usually, that big fight in a temple results in at least a couple. Right then. So, let's make a real save right here. And I'll see you for the finale, and hopefully not too long. For now, take care.